Hey, welcome back to ZK MasterTech. Today we're going to be working on this S780 combine. Josh is currently working on replacing all the injectors in the 9620 that you've seen in the video prior to this one. The camera's up there time-lapsing him replacing all six, so I'm going to rebuild a chopper drive like this one right here. Not this one in particular. I got another one ripped off a combine that is at a customer's place in the country, but this is what we're going to be rebuilding because it's actually leaking in between the two pulleys here, and it's leaking corn head grease out and it's dripping down on the floor. So we're going to be tearing this chopper drive all apart, and I'm going to show you guys how to basically disassemble the entire chopper drive, replace all of the seals and bushings. So let's get into it. So here we have a dual drive chopper here, so that allows us to be able to run off the smaller pulley or the big pulley, so slow and fast. And we have a little shift lever here. All the way in is first gear, all the way out is second, and in between is neutral. So first thing we're going to have to do is get all the pulleys off of it, and then we'll just have the bare chopper drive on there, and you'll be able to see things a little better. Common problems with these would be the shift lever coming out of gear, or it could be leaking, or you could have a bad bearing somewhere. So generally you have a leak, and or the lever will pop out of gear, and then the separator will kick off if it sees no chopper speed. Generally that's because there's not enough pressure on the detent and spring, or you might have a damaged detent and or shift fork lever. Sometimes if we shim, there's a little Allen plug right there. You can take that little Allen plug out, and then there's a spring, but there's also some shims that you can put in between the spring and the plug to put more pressure on that detent to try to keep it into gear. So sometimes we'll shim them, and sometimes you can try to shim it and it still pops out of gear, and at that point, if we're harvesting in the field, I'm just going to slap a new chopper drive on. But this one is actually leaking right here, as you can see, so that's the main problem with this one. But regardless, you pretty much have to do the same procedure rebuilding it, whether you got a bad bearing or a bad seal. It's all got to come apart. So first thing we're going to do is get these pulleys off both sides, and we'll get this shift lever T-handle off. All right, take all these bolts out. There's one pulley. Ooh. Pulley number 2. Now, here's just our chopper drive. So if you order a new one, this is what you're going to get right here. So we're going to take a 10 millimeter, take this lock nut off here. Pull that off. So now I'm going to go ahead and take this snap ring off. And here we have little plastic covers for some threaded holes that we're going to use for jack bolts. So we got 3 more bolts in here. We'll pull those guys out. Okay. Then we're going to take 2 of them and install them in the jack bolt holes. We're going to pull it apart. Just like that. Now we'll leave those out for now. See, that's full of cornhead grease. Well, really thin and yucky cornhead grease. So we'll have to clean up all this stuff kind of as we go. Next thing I'm going to do is pull this shift fork out, but we got to take the detent and spring out. So that Allen plug is a 5mm Allen. There's the plug. Take a magnet, pull out your spring. This one's got no shims, which is fine. Try to get that detent come out of the hole. There it is. Now, this will pull out of there. So all that shift fork's doing is just, selecting which pulley we want to drive from. Then this drive is splined onto the rotor shaft of the chopper. So there's the shift fork. I'll let that sit there. We'll get that cleaned off later. All right. I'm going to try to drain some of this grease off. Yummy. We'll let that sit for a minute. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all this cleaned up as good as I possibly can. You going to live, Josh?
Yeah, I just got shorter real fast.
You said you just got shorter real fast?
Yeah. Yes, I did.
Oh, that's a good one. AKA, the ladder just fell out from under him. So anyway, yeah, we're going to get these all cleaned up and so you can see what we're dealing with here. Now that we got these cleaned up a little bit, I'm going to use a bearing driver disc right here so we can put a T-bar puller and pull this half off. Now we can take a dead blow, tap this out. That. And there you have it. We're completely disassembled here. Almost. I mean, we got bearings and stuff we can take out, but the main pieces are apart. So you can tell right here is where the problem lies. We're leaking past this seal right here. We also have an O-ring inside of here. We got an O-ring here. And there's a couple more somewhere. I can't remember. We'll get to it. But so now we're just going to take each of these pieces and recondition as we go. So we got bearing to put in here, a bearing to put in here. We got 2 bearings to put in here. We got a new O-ring to put on right there. New O-ring here, new O-ring here. Plus, got to get everything all cleaned up. So, I think I'm going to go after this bearing first, because that was the first piece I took off, and work my way across. All right. Here at the old press here, this thing's been around since Moby was a minnow. We're going to take a 3-inch disc driver, stick it in there like that. Do some pumps. Just like that. Look around here. Clean this out a little bit. Press the new one in. Okay. That one's done. Okay, here we got this piece, but we need to take this snap ring out. But do look, pay attention. When you put the snap ring back in, the opening of the snap ring has to be in line with the hole that the shift fork goes through. So we're going to remove the snap ring and press this bearing out. Got these new snap-on snap ring pliers. You just push the button, and now you got the opposite. Oof, it's a strong one. Oh. Woo. Yeah, it'll hurt you bad. Now I've got a 4 3/4 bearing drive disc right in there. Shorten this up a bit. I'm really attached to this old press. We've done a lot of things together. This press could talk. Woo. Clean this up. Let's put the snap ring in on the bed. Get this snap ring in. Probably should be using bigger snap ring pliers for this bad boy. But I got it. Okay, so we're gonna yank this big O-ring off. Clean up around there a little bit. We got that piece done. Now we'll get the bearings off the shaft there. Look at these bearings. So these are sealed bearings. All this grease that you see here, that's leaked out of the seal of the bearing. And there's really not that much grease in that bearing, so it's missing all that. So it's probably a good thing we're rebuilding this, putting bearings in it. Now the first thing we're going to do is take the snap ring off of this one. We got another driver take to the press here. I don't know, size 2 1/8. Fit on there. All right. Go. Alright, set a new bearing there. Stick that in there. Put our spacer on there. Start another bearing. Now I'm just going to put the snap ring on. And that. Take the O-ring off. That. Okay. That piece is done. This piece will take this O-ring off. And one inside. Put that in there. Like so. Lube that one up with some corner grease a little bit. We're going to stick this back in. Okay. Move this off a little bit. we go. Put our shift fork in there. You can see the three different detents on the shift fork that this little pin goes into. So if that gets damaged in there, then it'll kick out of gear, or if there's not enough spring pressure on that. Oh, you know what? Not supposed to put a new O-ring on there till the shift fork's over. That clamp down in there. Now we can put our spring and our detent into place. Put the detent in first. Put that down in there. Your spring. Now you got to kind of push on this plug, depress the spring to get it started. Okay. Now we're at the point where we can fill this thing up with cornhead grease. So this holds about 11 ounces, so about 3/4 of a tube. The tubes are 14 ounces. Oh, I'll put my O-ring back on now. Got the grease gun loaded with cornhead grease, and I'm gonna put 11 ounces of grease in here. So it should look about like that when you get done. So now, the last and final step before we put that together is we're going to change out the seal for the shift fork right here. So we'll pop that out. You know, I popped that little seal out using a seal puller and just stick it in there, and pops out pretty simple. And get a new one drove in there. All right, so I just use like a 9mm socket that'll fit that, and just drive it down in there. Okay, got a new seal in there for our shift fork. I lubed this O-ring up a little bit, and now we're just gonna set this guy on top. You just got to line up your shift fork there to go in the hole. Get it started. Come on. Let's get it started. And we'll use our long bolts. Go into here. Work it down. Now you can notice this shaft is not sticking up all the way through there. You just flip this around, you can see where it's sticking out. Just pound it through. And we'll take our snap ring. Slip our snap ring on. Last step. Let's put our shift lever on. Throw the pulleys on. Torqued.
Right in.
Torqued. Voila. All right, so now all we got to do is take this to the farm, slide it onto the chopper shaft. It gets one bolt. You slam that on, put your belts on, adjust it, done. And that is how you recondition a dual chopper drive. All right, well, that's going to do it for this video. If you guys like this video, would you please give me a like and subscribe below if you haven't already. Give me a comment, let me know how I'm doing. And until next time, keep that green iron moving.